Hey everyone, this is Mike, and yesterday I decided to return to Red Mage for a little bit until we decided to finally optimize Eden's vs Savage. So for those that don't know, I was initially planning to play Red Mage for the first 8 or so weeks until I got all of the gear ready to play Black Mage, and then I would switch over to Black Mage to learn how to play that. In reality, that didn't really end up happening because the Summoner book dropped week 1, so I ended up switching to Summoner pretty much from the second week onward, until I then eventually switched to Black Mage about 5 weeks ago. Now, for the last 4 weeks I've been playing Black Mage, I've been getting better on it, but I also know that I need a whole lot more practice on the job in order to actually see some real improvement on it and to be happy with playing it in a Savage environment. Now, because we pretty much only do weeklies at this point with my Savage group, and then we go into Alexander Ultimate because we plan to finish all of our weapons for that. We still need 4 more clears. But because of that, we only spend 1 day in Savage and we just do our weekly clears and that's it, meaning that if we get lucky, we only get 1 pull per fight and then just clear it in 1 shot. And that also means that I don't really get much practice on Black Mage, which I do feel like I definitely still need, especially on some of the later fights, 7 and 8. I need to improve a whole lot more in order to play better, because from playing Red Mage once yesterday, after not having played it for 11 weeks, I beat all of the parses that I had prior to that from Summoner and Black Mage, just from that like freestyling once. And even on E8 I still had to res a lot of people, so I lost a lot of DPS as well by just having to res other people, and I still managed to beat my Summoner and Black Mage pars by quite a bit. Now, when it comes down to playing Red Mage, it's a job that I've always loved to play. I think the concept of the job itself is just perfect. You feel like a ranged physical because you just have so much movement baked into your kit. Through all of the dual casting, you still have a fair amount of global cooldowns that you have to press as well, and you just feel like a jack of all trades. Like, you are a DPS, like you're basically like a caster DPS because you have your cast times. You feel almost as mobile as a ranged physical because you have so many instant casts available to you, and if you need continuous movement, then you can still use Reprise. I know it's kind of a DPS loss if you use it too much, but it is there if you really need it for the movement. And then last but not least, you also feel kind of like a melee because you have to dash in, do that melee combo every now and then as well. And I think all of these different combos together make it so that Red Mage feels incredibly good. Its own personal DPS is a lot better now as well than it was before. Its raid contribution is still the best out of all of the casters because Embolden is the best raid buff coming from the casters themselves. And it just feels incredibly good to play. The balancing act of your manas makes it fun, because every time, like, your rotation always feels a little bit different depending on the procs that you get. You have to juggle your procs together with your mana generation. Then when can you go in for that melee combo as well, because of course you can't always be next to the boss. And if there is a mechanic that means that, for example, like everybody needs to be apart from each other, you want to give that melee space to your melee DPSs themselves and not hog that for yourself. So there's still a lot more things that go into playing Red Mage than a lot of people think, because when I first said that I was going to play Red Mage for this week's Savage, some people in my static were like, are you for real? Why would you do that to yourself? Red Mage is so simple, it's so easy, it's so boring to play, and I definitely don't think that is the case. Red Mage still stays my favorite caster to play so far of all time. Like, back when I started playing caster for real, like for serious, back in Deltascape, I played Red Mage. I did play some Summoner and Black Mage as well, but Red Mage was my prevalent caster, and right now as well, after having played all 3 a decent amount, I'd say that Red Mage is probably still my favorite out of all of them. I still want to improve on Black Mage, which is something that I'm definitely going to be doing, because I want to get better at that job. But for now, the way it is right now, I think Red Mage is still the most fun to play to me, because there are also so many things that you have to pay attention to. With Black Mage, yes, its rotation is fairly straightforward, but there are still a lot of things that you have to take care of. And you have like the whole movement aspect to it. When you're playing Summoner, it feels like you're just playing the piano because you've got so many different off-global cooldowns to press, especially in the opener. But other than that, it feels pretty good to play as well. But then when it comes down to Red Mage, the randomness of its rotation, it just feels good to me. And I'm someone that just freestyles for the most part anyways. So having a job whose rotation is quite literally to freestyle is something that I do quite enjoy. Now, going into patch 5.2, Red Mage also got a small buff, Summoner got a small nerf, And I kind of wanted to talk about that as well, because I touched upon it before as well, but that was of course before people already had all of their best in slot done and that kind of stuff. So right now we have a much better picture of how well Red Mage is performing against the other two casters as well, because pre 5.2 Red Mage was very far behind, and looking at it right now, Red Mage is still behind, but the gap is closing quite a bit. If I look at my own personal parses, the 3 different casters are incredibly close to each other. That's probably because I'm a much better Red Mage than I am a Summoner or a Black Mage, but still, they are relatively close. And even if you look at the top parses for all 4 of the current Savage fights, Red Mage is creeping up quite a bit. Like, there's still a decent difference between the top Red Mages and the top Summoners and Black Mages, but you can see that the gap is closing quite a bit. So I really do think that currently the casters are in a pretty decent spot. I still think Summoner needs a very small nerf, because it's still sometimes outperforming Black Mages. Like, for example, on 5 Black Mage is the dominant caster, but on 6, 7 and 8 Summoner is definitely getting a whole lot closer. And I still think that Black Mage should keep that top spot because it doesn't have those raid buffs and that kind of stuff. Kind of like how Samurai is at the moment, because I think Samurai is in a really good spot as well right now. But basically, Summoner should get a very tiny nerf to kind of make it more in line with the other casters, and then maybe again bring it a bit closer to Red Mage as well. So that's kind of like what I think about the 3 casters at the moment. I think that they're in a relatively decent spot. It also means that playing Red Mage for like seriously in a static environment is definitely not going to be hindering your static either. A lot of people are so like kind of stuck in this idea that you need to play the best jobs available at all times, and something like a Samurai or a Red Mage wouldn't fit into a raiding environment because they just don't perform as well. For Samurai, that's a different case right now, because Samurai got buffed quite a lot and is actually a really strong melee at the moment, probably one of the strongest together with Ninja. But yeah, so basically Red Mage is good to play. It feels incredibly good to play. I am really enjoying it. So I'm going to be playing it for the next few weeks until we do decide to do that optimization. As I said, we're going to be doing 4 more clears of Alexander Ultimate. I'm not quite sure how long that will be taking, because we are going to try to do multiple clears in a day. Knowing my static, that probably won't happen, so maybe like another 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, depending on how many days we are able to spend on that, because of course people on inside of the static are still doing other stuff as well. Like, for example, some people have alt statics that they raid with as well, and then, for example, they're also still doing Ultima Weapon Ultimate. They want to farm that a little bit as well. I'm not part of that group, but they are still doing that, so we don't want to raid like a crazy amount every week either, because we are a relatively well, we're not really a casual static when it comes down to progression, but when it comes down to farming stuff, we are definitely more of a casual / mid-core static, rather than like the semi-hardcore stuff that we did for progression and that kind of stuff. So we don't have as much time to spend as we would maybe want to or feel like doing sometimes. So basically, it might still be a little while before you see me on Black Mage again. For now, I'm going to be playing Red Mage. I've been really enjoying my time yesterday playing it again. I definitely still have a couple of things to optimize on some of the fights. Like, for example, there were a couple of parts where I'm just going into my melee combo and all of a sudden, shit, the boss just phased away and I just lost half of my combo or something like that. And I made some other mistakes here or there as well, so I'm really curious to see how much I can still improve on Red Mage to basically make those logs better, because I really want to see how well I can do on this job again, because it is still one of my favorites, if not my favorite caster at the moment at least. When it comes out to normal DPS, there are still a couple of other jobs that I might enjoy more, but for now, really liking Red Mage, definitely with the new buffs and that kind of stuff. Yeah, we got in 5.2, it's looking very good, and then of course, a good balanced game is always a whole lot more fun as well, because it gives you more options to play, especially when it trickles down to the people that are just looking to get their clears. So that's kind of all I wanted to talk about. Going to be playing Red Mage for the next however many weeks until we do decide to do some optimization. So if you hop in on the stream on Tuesdays, then you'll probably see me play Red Mage. I'm still going to stick to Summoner for Alexander Ultimate, just because I want to get that thing over and done with, and I've got like 2 clears on Summoner now, so I know kind of how to play it. Even though I play Summoner wrong in that fight, but maybe I'll talk about that in some other video on how I think you should play different in an Ultimate environment when you're not caring about like your own personal DPS, but like the DPS checks instead. But that's a whole topic for another video, if I do decide to talk about that at some point. For now, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Red Mage for the next few weeks. until we decide to finally hit that optimization, and then I'm gonna go ham on Black Mage again to finally try and become the Black Mage I've always wanted to be. So that's gonna be it for me. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.